Good morning, everyone. I'm Christine Lang, your BOMA Greater Dallas president, and welcome to our very first BOMA Greater Dallas virtual luncheon. We're so excited to have you all here for our first luncheon of 2020. Don't forget, this luncheon is BYOBC, so send your pictures of your best BOMA chicken to Colleen by noon. To enter the challenge, just send your pictures to Colleen via email at cbransford@bomadallas.org, or you can text her at 318-272-4237. Today's speaker is Randall White with 24 Hour Dallas. BOMA Greater Dallas has recently formed a partnership with 24 Hour Dallas, and we're so excited to have Randall White here to tell us more about it. Welcome, Randall. Before we get started,
Hi.
Hey, Randall. Before we get started, I'd like to take a second to recognize our 2020-2021 official partners. Starting with our cornerstone partners, we have April Building Services, AMST Elevator Interiors, Interstate Restoration, Land Care, Mooring Construction and Restoration. Thank you to our cornerstone partners for your continued support. Next, we have our keystone partners, America's Corporate Building Maintenance, Blackman Mooring and BMS CAT, Britain Building Maintenance, CertaPro Painters of Far North Texas, Citywide Building Services, Flynn Companies, Property Paving, Reef Parking, Texas Roof Management, and United Mechanical. Thank you to our keystone partners for all that you do. And last but not least, we have our foundation partners. 5, ABM, Empire Roofing, Facility Solutions Group, Night Restoration Services, Select Commercial Services, Sun Commercial Roofs, and United Protective Services. Thank you to our foundation partners. You're very much appreciated. Again, a big thank you to all of our allied companies that participate in our official sponsorship program. We truly value your support and friendship, and we wouldn't be here if it weren't for you all. So thank you. As I'm sure you've all seen by now, BOMA Greater Dallas has its own YouTube channel where you can access all previously recorded webinars as well as my vlog, the BOMA Greater Dallas Unplugged. The YouTube channel is updated weekly and is a great resource to find information covering a variety of topics, so check it out. After months of social distancing, I know we're all more than ready to get back to our in-person events. One of the best parts of BOMA Greater Dallas is having the opportunity to network with our peers, colleagues, and friends through our monthly membership meetings, educational seminars, and networking events. So without further ado, let me update you on what's in store at BOMA Greater Dallas in the next few months. First up, although we're sad that we don't have the BOMA International Conference and that it was canceled, but we are very excited to host our Toby International Watch Party and Dallas Dinner on July 9th at 2 p.m. This event is business casual and will feature hors d'oeuvres from some of our favorite uptown restaurants. Come socialize distantly with your BOMA friends and as we celebrate our 2020 BOMA Greater Dallas Toby entrance. We have 4 buildings competing for international honors at the Toby competition, so good luck to all the property managers and their teams who are competing. We are so thrilled to be able to have a proper in-person celebration in Dallas, since we're unable to attend the actual award ceremony in Philly, but it's the next best thing. Tickets are $50 for members and guests and $75 for non-members. Due to social distancing requirements, space is limited, so go register now at the BGD website. We can't wait to see you all there. Who's ready to go outside and have some fun in the sun? Well, lucky for us, the BGD Sporting Clays tournament is almost here. The tournament is set for Friday, August 21st at Elm Fork Shooting Sports. We had such a great turnout last year, and we hear this year will be just as competitive. So start your drafting team and get to practicing. It's almost time to shoot some clays. The Foundations of Real Estate Management course begins on Friday, July 10th. This 5-module, 28-hour course covers the fundamentals of commercial real estate administration, management, building systems, contract management, accounting and reporting, and more. And you'll receive classroom instruction from seasoned pros, reinforced by behind-the-scene tours at the best buildings in Dallas. The course will take place every Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. starting on July 10th. The fee for the 5-module course is $750 for members and $950 for non-members. And as you all may have heard in my blog, this is one course that I truly love. It was the one thing that got me into this industry and got me hooked into it. So I encourage you all to sign up now on the website. We know that the YP Casino Night is always a fan favorite, but with everything that's happened in the last few months, we've decided to switch it up a little bit. So now, introducing our YP Bingo Night. Come out on Friday, July 17th for some pizza, drinks, and competitive games of bingo. There are sponsorships available for this event, and registration is now available on the BGD website. Okay. I know it doesn't feel like we should already be talking about the gala, but it's only 5 months away and we'll be here before we know it. Sponsorships are available, so visit the BGD website and snag one of those opportunities while they're still there. Also, don't forget the Gala Donation Challenge has started and will continue through September 2nd. Donation items include wine, spirits, gift cards, silent auction items that are $25 or more. And these donations can be made with monetary form through the Gala website, which can also be found on our website. The person who donates the most will win 10 tickets and a reserved table at the Gala. And the winner will be announced during the September luncheon. Now, I'd like to take the time to recognize our 2020-2021 BOMA Greater Dallas board members and officers. This is usually where I'll tell everyone to stand up when I call your name, but since we can't see you all, just pretend like you're waving to your dog or to your plant in your office. So, got me as your president. Hello. Michael Walker, your vice president. Jacqueline Bird, your secretary and treasurer. And immediate past president, Kathy Keebler. Adam Bernhardt, Colleen Burrows, Blake Moritzen, Ryan Rothaker, Steve Broom, Amber Stugart, Mary Stocks, and Christy Walters. I'm so thrilled to be working with this fine group of people here. And finally, the reason why we're here today, I'd like to introduce our featured speaker, Randall White with 24 Hour Dallas. Throughout Randall's presentation, if anyone has any questions for him, you can put them in the Q&A or chat box right there at the bottom of your screen, and Randall will answer them at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, welcome, Randall. I hand it over
Christine.
to you.
Hello. Thank you very much. It's good to see you, and I'm glad to be here with our BOMA friends. Thank you. So shall I just dive in, or do you want to start with any other kind of conversation?
Well, you know, I guess the one thing I do want to mention is how we were introduced.
Sure.
And why we reached out. My biggest thing when I started looking into what my theme was going to be, I was really looking into homelessness, and because we back before we had COVID and all that we're dealing with right now, you know, that was kind of the thing we were talking about the DA talking about how he was going to pursue charges on homelessness, and it made me think we're part of the problem too by just passing on someone to the next property, and that's not what we want to do, not what I want to do either. And reached out to Lynn McBee, who is a huge advocate for homelessness, and she introduced me to you. And just Teresa and I, from that, besides you being a Sooner, you know, that the connection was already there. But I just really was so intrigued with what you guys are doing. So.
All right. Well, thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you too, and nice to be here with everybody from BOMA, the commercial real estate industry, and the building operators and managers, and all of the vendors that are associated with BOMA are part of what make up our community. And certainly that's what 24 Hour Dallas is about. So please let me just go back here a bit and share with you a little bit about 24 Hour Dallas. And our new relationship with BOMA. So the mission of 24 Hour Dallas, it's a nonprofit organization, is let's create a safe, vibrant, and diverse nighttime culture for businesses, residents, and guests. And what inspired this in part was the trends and what's happening in the city of Dallas before COVID BC, and how so many people were coming to Dallas, and it was a kind of profile of employee and worker that had a different expectation on the type of city in which they lived. These were folks that wanted to be part of a community and wanted to be able to walk to things and wanted to not have to get in the car and drive home on the rush hour at 5 p.m. Dallas was becoming more urbanized, and as we talk a lot about, I don't particularly care for the phrase world-class city, but global city, that Dallas's international presence was rising, and certainly not only in Texas, but nationwide. And so there's a different mindset going on. So the history of 24 Hour Dallas goes back to 2015. A bar in Uptown called the Standard Pour was having some challenges with the adjacent neighborhood. As you know, with any city, when you've got any kind of entertainment district, or as I prefer to call them, sociable districts that are right next to a residential community or residential units, sometimes there could be conflict between the kind of activities in a bar or a restaurant or music club and the residential community that's immediately adjacent. And one bar in Uptown was beginning to encounter some challenges in interacting with their residential neighborhood right behind them. And there was some street trouble beginning to happen with other folks from other bars. And so what they did was they reached out to the Texas Restaurant Association, because at the time there was no really specific organization that would be supportive and an advocate for the bar industry in the state of Texas or the city of Dallas. I, with my company hat, I own a small consulting company called Elatorre. We do public affairs and community relations work. I had just been hired by the Greater Dallas chapter of the Texas Restaurant Association, the Greater Dallas Restaurant Association. Our mission at that time was to have me begin to build better relationships between the restaurant industry and local elected officials. The restaurant industry, the Restaurant Association, has always been very, very strong in having a statewide legislative presence and certainly a national legislative presence in trying to affect policy and make changes that would make the restaurant industry thrive. But none of these municipal chapters of the Restaurant Association had ever focused on the local advocacy opportunities. And so they hired me, and I had just started at the Restaurant Association and thought, well, we'll just build wonderful relationships with Dallas City Council, with the school board, because the school board was focused at that time on building culinary programs in the Dallas Independent School District, and it was all going to be warm and chummy. And then this happened. Suddenly we were caught in some unfortunate conflict between business and residential communities. And that's, I had just been hired, and I immediately went to work on trying to address some of these challenges that surfaced. This took a while, but by 2017, there was a formal effort by the city of Dallas to require additional parking requirements on any restaurant or bar that had an outdoor space. So if you're familiar with parking requirements in the city of Dallas, Typically, they're based upon the square footage of and the capacity of the interior of a building, of the interior of a restaurant. And there was a move suddenly from a Dallas City Council person to overlay new requirements on existing restaurants and bars and music venues in the city of Dallas, so that they would also be able to be required to provide the same per square foot parking requirements for any outside space that they had for inside space. So places like the Rustic and their incredible outdoor area, or sidewalk cafes, or even rooftops bars of businesses were suddenly going to put an additional burden on those restaurants and bars. And for some places in the core of the city, there was really no way for them to accommodate additional parking because of just the limited space. So what was originally that conflict between the standard poor in Uptown and neighbors, residential neighbors, suddenly presented itself in this way. And this was all about trying to contain noise, and with completely justifiably. And so out of that, we launched a grassroots effort called Save the Patio, and lobbied as a group. We wound up having 300-400 people from the restaurant and the commercial real estate industry, and convenience stores and other businesses that would have any kind of outdoor space, and successfully got the Dallas City Council person to withdraw their ordinance that they were proposing. And it was quite impressive, to tell you the truth, to have suddenly 300 people attending a town hall meeting at Dallas City Hall, and have them all be from the restaurant industry and the bar industry, saying, you don't understand what you're doing here. The reality was, again, there were noise issues, and there were some street violence issues that were really at the core of a neighborhood's complaint about an adjacent community's, adjacent business community's activities. So we've finally kind of got that particular issue settled, and that's when we began to realize that there was a need to have a focus on what happens in the city of Dallas at night with restaurants and businesses and other cultural activities, and that there might be an opportunity here to focus more on the nighttime economy of Dallas. However, little did we know that something else was in the pipeline and aimed at the restaurant and bar industry. What suddenly developed was a new ordinance, a new citywide overlay. You may have heard about this. It was called the Late Night Overlay. And again, it came up out of a residential community that was frustrated with the activities, business activities of some adjacent businesses. And the late night overlay would have allowed this city council appointed panel to put basically to close a block face of businesses that are adjacent to a residential community, to close them at midnight, and based upon the behavior of one business. So if you had an entire block of businesses that was next to, say, let's use for an example Bishop Arts, the Bishop Arts district. If in a block of businesses next to a residential community there was one business that was being a bad neighbor, too much outside noise, their customers were being rowdy, et cetera, this city appointed commission panel could have closed that entire block face of businesses based upon the behavior of one. And it was the only way that the city could think of to address the problems of one business, and it was what the law allowed. So once again, on behalf of the Greater Dallas Restaurant Association, we mobilized this time as many as 600 people to go to City Hall, and we created a grassroots campaign called Stop the Curfew, because it really was, although we fully understood the concerns and complaints that triggered this kind of proposed ordinance, at the same time, we needed to communicate to our Dallas City Council that this was a jobs impact. These are people that have their second jobs are in the hospitality and restaurant industry, and this was going to be damaging to this industry for the city of Dallas. It's like the third largest employer in the city of Dallas. And so finally, and it took a lot of doing, but finally we also got this proposed ordinance defeated. We would defeat it at a committee level. It would get bumped up anyway to a next level. We would defeat it there. It would get bumped up again at another level. Finally, it got to the city council level, and we persuaded Dallas City Council not to embrace this ordinance. And it was at a time when there seemed to be kind of an anti-business tenor coming out of the city of Dallas. And so we again saw the opportunity for this to mobilize the nighttime economy in a way that could, instead of running from the problem, run toward the problems and run toward the opportunities and see what we could do about this. Now, working on the Stop the Curfew campaign, I was connected with an entire movement that was beginning to happen out of Europe, a focus on what they call over there night mayors, or nighttime commissioners, or nighttime commissions. Several of the cities in Germany and England were forming nighttime entities that were focused on these challenges that happen at night, and also focusing on how to develop the nighttime economy. And I was introduced to, folks who were focused on this in many cities around the world. That led me to the opportunity to go to Sydney, Australia, and meet with night mayors from around the world in what was called the Global Cities After Dark Symposium. And everyone addressing those kinds of issues, the conflicts, what happens with homelessness, what happens with human trafficking, what's going on with the conflicts between music and clubs, and how it's all spills out at a particular time because the bars have to close at 2, and what this means to streets and neighbors and residential communities, and the shifts that are happening in just our economy and how it affects the nighttime industry. So it was a very fascinating opportunity to go to this conference. I came back to Dallas all fired up about, this is the answer. Our opportunity here is to create an entity that is solely focused on the nighttime economy and how we can build it, how we can triage problems, and how we can build a coalition, a varied coalition, who all have a little stake in making sure that our nights are safe and still economically vibrant and inclusive for all people. So that's kind of the origin of 24-Hour Dallas. Was really built up a lot here at this particular conference. The Greater Dallas Restaurant Association then took the leadership on this, thankfully. They were also my client, but I was spending a lot of volunteer time working on 24-Hour Dallas. And for a year and a half, we built teams that brainstormed, what is this organization going to be about? What can we be? How can we better serve the Dallas's nighttime economy? And finally, in 2020, January of this year, we debuted. 24-Hour Dallas appeared formally for the first time. We had an organization, we had 60 members, all at this time non-paying members, because we were still an initiative of the Greater Dallas Restaurant Association. And we broke out into several areas of interest and decided to focus on the Dallas's 24-hour economy, that we're more than a 9-to-5 city. The types of folks we want to attract to the city want it to be more than that, but also there's already a workforce here. We have first responders, medical professionals, transportation providers, caregivers. In the city in London, the largest nighttime workforce are health caregivers. Not hospital workers, but home health care folks. That there's an entire industries of people who work and thrive at night. Why are we forgetting them? Why are we still in a 9-to-5 model? So these individuals need to be able to do the same kind of things that the 9-to-5ers do. when do people at work at night vote unless they take a day off and show up in the daytime? How do they get a prescription filled? Where do they get a haircut? So we began to kind of kick around all these kinds of ideas and think about what could 24-hour Dallas be about. We know that the international visitor market, many of them have a different standard. They're not interested in being in a city that closes down at 9 p.m. They want to be able to stay out late and socialize more. That this is very important to us from a tourism perspective and from attracting companies that want a particular kind of employee base that's more sociable and not necessarily the 9-to-5 crowd. And that we're losing those companies to places like Chicago, which are more focused on their kind of full 24-hour economy. We also know that we want to attract kind of people that like to walk. The walkability is important to folks that thrive at night, the creative class, the work from home folks, other than the fact that we're all work from home now. But we knew that we wanted to focus on things that would make this crowd feel comfortable and have access to the goods and services that they would like to have. And we also knew we wanted to be able to attract those kinds of international events that we're not attracting now. The things that would be good for our nighttime economy, those things that would be good to elevate the profile of the city of Dallas. But we're losing them now because they look at Dallas and they think, no, you really don't have the kind of full city life that we want to place in Olympics or to place an international soccer event. It's not quite there yet. So we knew we wanted to build this nighttime economy in a way that would appeal to a broad universe. So from that, we knew we were going to face some challenges. We knew that noise was still going to be an issue, that if we devoted energy to the nighttime economy and focused on bars and restaurants and special events that would help make our city be more vibrant at night, that we still encounter complaints or concerns about noise. Especially now, I don't know if you've been following, there's a new, in the city of Dallas, and you'll see this pop up in more cities. I know BOMA covers a greater than the city of Dallas area, but you'll begin to see some restaurants and bars put what they're calling parklets. They're taking advantage of parking spaces right outside of the building. It's a way that restaurants and bars can now get that kind of physical spacing that we're looking for in order to be mindful of the pandemic and protect our customers. So we're beginning to expand out into the street some. And in some cities, particularly in Europe, you're beginning to see that even some streets close. And they're being completely taken over by cafes and bars and music venues and retail spaces because it allows us to have that spacing we need for our customers to be safe. So with that, noise is going to continue to be a challenge. We also know that our transportation options here are not the same as they are in places like Europe. That the ease of getting on a metro line or a trolley line, even the network for bicycles is just not the same. It kind of makes some other cities really vital at night. So we knew that transportation was going to be something we were also going to have to look at. We knew that the whole change in the retail model, thank you Amazon, was going to or is already changing how storefront retail works in our cities. That's why we have a lot of vacant spaces, as many of you know, in the new buildings, new residential communities that 10 years ago, we were all about advocating mixed use development, residential above retail. And now we have a lot of residential, but a lot of that retail is vacant in large part because of the Amazon model. And that also produces some other challenges. As we're living in a closer city at night, there's more noise, and delivery trucks contribute to that. So even in terms of, there's some construction considerations now in residential mixed-use development, building construction, to accommodate the fact that we're going to need more trucks delivering. There are issues in some cities about limiting when trucks can deliver. The city of New York was looking at a possible ordinance to limit all truck deliveries to after the evening rush hour and before the morning rush hour. So that's great that it leaves some congestion in cities, but what's that going to do for noise in the residential community? So we knew that that was something else we were going to want to look at and explore in terms of what the retail changes are and what it's going to mean for placemaking and noise reduction. We knew that in particular the city of Dallas, there are concerns about crime and the perception of crime, and that was going to be something we were going to work out, the role of just feeling comfortable and safe and walking down a street. We knew that that was a real concern for the nighttime economy, particularly in Dallas, when we're not quite so comfortable as you might be in an urban setting like Chicago or New York or San Francisco or London or Berlin or any place where there are a lot more people and there's more comfort in that. And we also knew that now everything has changed. The coronavirus pandemic has suddenly put all new considerations on how things how the nighttime economy is going to be affected. We know that there are millions of jobs at risk. And if you look at the top of this chart, you will see that the hospitality industry, food and drink, and retail, and travel, and tourism are all in jeopardy. We know that in the hotel industry, that the loss of jobs and the loss of hotels is going to be pretty significant. Those are all part of things that sustain us at night. We know that in the restaurant community in particular, this is recent data from the Texas Restaurant Association about the number of employees, the number of jobs that are going to be lost, the number of restaurants that are going to be closed, and this has tax-based ramifications. This is one reason why we feel this kind of urgency from our state elected officials to open. We need that tax base because the reality is we're having to balance public health versus revenue to operate and serve the public health. And it's a very difficult, sometimes very uncomfortable place to be. And then recently, of course, with the killing of George Floyd, social unrest and the mindfulness, however, that's coming up out of that, particularly from our younger citizens, in terms of being a more equitable place and some place that is free from fear on many fronts. And that certainly this is all playing into the future of the city of Dallas and its nighttime economy and how vibrant we can be, how safe we can be, and how inclusive we can be. So 24-hour Dallas suddenly was dropped into this whole world thinking we're going to, again, like early on in the Restaurant Association, we thought initially, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to build these relationships and come up with all these solutions to and opportunities. We're going to transform our city at night. That was before COVID and before George Floyd. And so suddenly we're also getting the opportunity, and I do see it as an opportunity, to address those kinds of issues as well. Because we want to live in a place. We want to live in a place that is vibrant and that is welcoming to all, and that has retail and has restaurants and has hotels, and that is exciting to go to if you don't live there, exciting to go to and then go back home from, but or exciting to live in. So we know that around the world that these cities and more are focused on their nighttime economies, and all approaching them in very different ways. I'm very fortunate to be in contact with many of these people on a daily basis. We also know that in the United States, that just these organizations, these cities, excuse me, on the left column, currently have nighttime initiatives. Austin, Detroit, Fort Lauderdale, Iowa City, Los Angeles, New York City, Orlando, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Seattle, St. Augustine, Florida, Washington, D.C. We can now add Dallas to that list. The one difference is that in the city of Dallas, our 24-hour initiative, our nighttime economy organization, is the only one of those in the states that is a private nonprofit. All of the rest of those entities are municipally managed and municipally run. We intentionally wanted to create a private sector-led enterprise because we felt like we could be more fleet in developing ideas and more political in rolling out potential policies, and that our coalition could be very broad of folks that have a stake in the nighttime economy. So that's the difference in Dallas. 24-hour Dallas, as of yesterday, got its official paperwork, is now a 501c3 nonprofit charity focused on the nighttime economy, and it's the only one of those organizations in the United States operating like that. So our focus again is, let's create a safe, vibrant, and diverse nighttime culture for businesses, residents, and guests. Now, this certainly affects the entire commercial real estate industry in ways that, just because, well, you know that with the changes from COVID, that the 9-to-5 operation is no longer the way we're going to be. And going to work from 9 to 5 is no longer the way we're going to be. And that your businesses oftentimes are adjacent or in the middle of, again, what I call hospitality districts or sociable districts, where people can leave your building and cross the street for lunch, or where people, and those of you that may be managing residential properties, where there are conflicts sometimes between the residents in the building and the businesses nearby. We know that collaboration and a different work model will serve Dallas best as this kind of private sector-led enterprise to focus on this particular mission. And we're very glad to have BOMA be a part of that. After a year and a half of developing our areas of focus, we came down to these 8 areas. One is communication. This is about how we inform people, how we raise awareness of the nighttime economy, how we reinforce the brand of 24-hour Dallas. 2 is cultural innovation. The arts and cultural organizations are critical to the vitality of our city, even more so now, because everything we were about 6 months ago when we were just rolling out has taken an arrow to the heart. Our whole mission was to invigorate our vibrancy at night, and using the restaurant industry and the hotel industry and the arts and cultural world. And those are the organizations that have been most damaged by the COVID pandemic. So now we find ourselves in a situation of wanting to help lead us out of this shutdown. And the cultural innovation has a great opportunity here to do that. If anyone is going to figure a path out to survive, it's going to be the arts. And already we are seeing, online streamed concerts and theater productions. And I can't quite go to the place like I've seen in some European clubs where they're spacing chairs out on the DJ, in front of the DJ in a club, and people are sitting in their chairs and rocking out. I can't quite go there. I hope we get to a place where we're able to be sociable again in a safe way, because we need that as a society. We can't all be forever just about this remote connection with other people. We want to grab a beer with somebody. We want to join some friends at a bar and then go someplace else for dinner. We want to go to the theater or a concert and then grab something to eat after, or maybe even go dancing. We're a sociable people. And that is what took the arrow to the heart. So our cultural innovation team is looking at different ways that we can invigorate and protect our arts and cultural scene. For example, we know that in Fort Lauderdale, there's a whole nonprofit that was formed just to take those vacant storefront retail spaces that are in the base of mixed-use buildings and temporarily make pop-up arts galleries, theater spaces out of them. Require some navigation around some various permitting at the local level, but it is a way to activate vacant spaces. So that may be something that our cultural innovation team looks at. We're looking at economic impact. Our data at the city of Dallas level, much less the region, is minimal in terms of the nighttime economy. I'm very impressed with data I'm seeing come out of other cities. They're spending tens of thousands of dollars to get it. So we have a team that's focused just on what's the impact of the nighttime economy, what data currently exists that allow us to come up with some baseline numbers so we can measure our progress in invigorating the nighttime economy. We know that economic vibrancy is important, the different kinds of things we can do to promote entrepreneurism. I'll tell you a little bit about a role I'm having on a City of Dallas committee, and we're going to be advancing recommendations there that will go to Dallas City Council that came right up out of 24 Hour Dallas's economic vibrancy team. Inclusion. Frankly, I think in the time of George Floyd that many of us are more woke than we were 6 months ago, and we are seeing how there are structural and systemic issues in our nighttime economy that are also discriminatory. And how can we address that? How can we make sure that everyone is welcome, not just based on race, based on age, based upon ability? How can we make sure that our focus is always front of mind, includes inclusion? Certainly number 6 area of focus is placemaking, and how we design places at night to make it safer, to make to discourage crime, to help manage conflict. Placemaking, there's some policies in the San Francisco right now where any new residential construction going in next to a sociable district, both or new business in a sociable district that's adjacent to a residential community, that both need to take extra construction concerns into consideration for sound abatement. And what does that mean for placemaking? How do we accommodate nighttime truck delivery now? So we have a team that's especially looking at that. They're also looking at environmental issues around placemaking at night, so that sanitation and especially now cleanliness are part of the consideration. We have a team that's focused on respect. Rather than running from problems and rather than coming up with citywide ordinances to try and lay a hammer down on an entire city, when in fact, maybe what needs to happen is conversation. We have a team that's just focused on respect. How do we negotiate and mitigate the conflicts that might happen between a business and a residential community, or between two businesses at night? What can we do there? And then finally, a focus on safety. And this includes everything from fighting fear with fact, to crime abatement, to alcohol and drug concerns, and how we navigate that. So we have these 8 teams: communication, cultural innovation, economic impact, economic vibrancy, inclusion, placemaking, and respect, that are all volunteer powered and all focused now on Dallas's nighttime economy. We have, since COVID began, done a few things to advance this. You may have heard in January, we developed, in partnership with several other entities, a couple of anti-trafficking placards that we make available free to anybody who requests them. They're in English and Spanish, and then another version that's in 4 languages: English, Spanish, Vietnamese, and Korean. They're the kind of placard that restaurants can take and place in the bathrooms, particularly in the stalls, so that it says sometimes the one time a traffic person has freedom. You know, they'll be the van will pull up. They'll let the girls or the boys out to go in and grab a bite to eat. They'll go into the bathroom. They'll use the bathroom. They close the bathroom stall door, and they see one of these signs, and it lets them know that they don't need to be in that situation and that there is a path out. Our safety team developed this in partnership with the Dallas Restaurant Association and the police department, as well as a company that translates. And this was all made available and printed and designed for free. So we have those. That's something our safety team has developed just since January and rolled out in January as part of Human Trafficking Awareness Month. We have also continued to host some chats. They were in person first, but then recently they've gone online with elected officials and policymakers to talk about those issues that are important to making our cities more vital at night. The last one we had before COVID clamped us down was with Congressman Mark Veazey. We have initiated some signage also available through our website for those businesses who really wish that. We know it's recommended. We hear recommended to wear masks, but some businesses really want their customers to wear masks because it's safer and it helps flatten the curve. We have also, we did another happy hour. There was a Zoom happy hour with Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins. He brought in the head of Health and Human Services for Dallas County, Dr. Philip Huang, and we had a great conversation with him for an hour talking about the impact of COVID on our economy and on our recovery, particularly in the hospitality and restaurant sector. That was something 24 Hour Dallas also made happen. And our new thing I think we're going to work on now, our Respect team is focusing on, is racism in the nighttime economy. I think we have a heightened awareness to this now. We're assembling a group of colleagues from across the city to work with us on this, to find out what might be able to be done. I can't tell you how many people have said, oh, I don't know what you're going to do about that. Oh, that's a tough one. And you know, it's like they tell those of you who may have had any training in public relations about crisis public relations management. You don't run from the fire, you run to it. You run toward it. You try to figure out how you can help rather than how you can explain it away. And I think that's going to be our newest area of focus because we're assembling that group right now to look at this. And we know it's a problem in the city of Dallas. So the most exciting thing I think that has happened is that as part of its economic recovery efforts, the city of Dallas established a restaurant and hospitality industry advisory committee to make recommendations to Dallas City Council of policies that could be put into ordinances or passed or approved, or practices that the city of Dallas could undertake that would benefit arts and culture and festivals and restaurants and hotels and the whole infrastructure that supports these operations in these sectors. And so our Dallas City Council member, Adam Bazaldua, who is actually a chef by training, was assigned the point person for this, and he developed a team of about 21 advisors from the community. We have been meeting for several weeks. I was asked to chair that with my 24-hour Dallas hat on. So a lot of our priorities for the nighttime economy and for the city of Dallas are interwoven into this, the recommendations that will go to City Council. We finalized these on Wednesday or Thursday in a committee meeting. And I'm very excited about what this will mean for our recovery and for strengthening the city and the ways that the city can help us be innovative and in invigorating the nighttime of Dallas as making us again more of a global city as we recover from this pandemic. So that's really a big, exciting opportunity that I'm being able to channel this entire volunteer organization's efforts into some things that may wind up being policy for the city of Dallas. So, BOMA, 24-hour Dallas. How do we advance with you and with all of the businesses? We have 60 different businesses, organizations, nonprofits, government agencies, as well as 100 different members now who are involved. It's all free. We have no membership fee yet, although we're going to have to address that pretty soon. But these are all some of the organizations that have joined BOMA and have representatives involved with us. So Christine, as your president, will also be involved with us for the year. But I also give the opportunity for any one of you and any of your other businesses to learn more about 24-hour Dallas and see how you might become a part of our cellular model, private sector-led, volunteer-powered, passion-driven enterprise is really kind of what we're all about. And I invite any of you to visit any of our social media platforms. We're on, of course, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, all at 24-hour Dallas. That's our handle on all those platforms. Each of the platforms is kind of delivers information in different ways. I curate the Facebook page. I not only celebrate things that are happening in Dallas that we can enjoy right now, new restaurants that are opening, new things that are happening, take-home cook packages for Father's Day, but also trends that are going on globally that we might be able to emulate here. For example, today, my colleagues around the world, one of them in Dublin, told me that he managed to get his federal government, the Irish government, to look at some policies that will address the nighttime economy in Ireland as it recovers. And so I posted those recommendations for policies in Ireland today. And this is what happens on the Facebook page. Twitter, of course, is fleeting. Instagram is usually visual. LinkedIn tends to be some of the business challenges and opportunities. So follow us at 24-hour Dallas across all of those platforms. That's one way to learn about us. You can also go to our website, 24hourdallas.org. You'll see here's the homepage. Change is coming. The pandemic is changing how cities socialize, and 24-hour cities will lead the way to a new normal. So we invite you to be a part of that. That's a place where you can also request those anti-trafficking placards if you would like them in your place of business, and learn more. See our Alliance leadership team, a wonderful, vibrant, young group of people that are so passionate about this. Likely, as we formulate our bylaws, which we're doing right now, they will become the board of directors. It will become more like a formal organization, but will still be volunteer powered until we get to a point where they can hire a staff. My position with 24-hour Dallas was also voluntary. I consider myself the founder and advisor. I'm kind of the coach, but they really are the passion and the heartbeat of 24-hour Dallas. You can learn about them and see all of our members on the website and see everything we're up to. You'll also be able to learn more about these 8 teams. And if you'd like to, that would be an opportunity for you to kind of sign on and say, hey, my company would like to help. My company would like to be involved. My business would like to be involved in making sure that as Dallas recovers from this pandemic, that we're able to shape it in a new way and in a fleet way that perhaps we wouldn't be able to achieve if this was a government-led enterprise. I say that very carefully because municipal government is our friend. But I think everybody gets that. So as a business or as an individual, there's ways for you to get involved, and you can learn about that on our website. And finally, I like to use the phrase carpe noctem. It's a takeoff from the old carpe diem. It means carpe noctem, seize the night. Let's not be afraid of it. It's when you go to a city, a famous city around the world, you want to go to its nighttime experience. And that's kind of what the wonderful memories that you take away from a great city is where you ate, what you saw, what you did, the cultural experience, the concert you attended. This is what helps make a great city. It's also a major economic force of a city. And so I invite you to learn more about 24 Hour Dallas. Contact me. There's my volunteer email address, randall@24hourdallas.org. And I look forward to getting BOMA involved in learning how we can specifically strengthen the relationship between the challenges and opportunities of our commercial real estate sector, and also what happens at night, and how we can help manage, as Christine said, some of the homelessness issues, rather than vilifying people and rather than people feeling unsafe. What are our other options? So please consider getting involved with 24 Hour Dallas. We're very grateful to have the involvement of BOMA and Christine. And I think pretty much that's everything I had to say. Christine, are there questions, or did that kind of give a full picture there?
Yes, it did. I think it did. And I, just kind of, it goes back to my theme that BOMA is, we have our own network, but we are also connected to so much more on the outside of just our buildings. There's so many things that affect us. And, just everything that you mentioned, the homelessness, trafficking, the nighttime. I mean, there's some of us that have 24-hour companies that are working in our buildings. We have our night crew, janitorial, security, 24/7 security. So there's so much that I think that we can help give our expertise to you guys and help do this together. And I think that's what we've learned just in the last several years, that it takes a team to get to the goal. And my favorite quote is, teamwork makes the dream work. So it sounds silly, but it's so true. I feel like that's our, what we do also in this industry that we're into.
Sure. Well, thank you for letting me kind of talk about 24 Hour Dallas. Like I said, we're very excited to be able to have this partnership with BOMA and all of our partners. I think when you sit down with us and you see everybody that's at the table, you can see that we've got the ability to make the dreams happen. Yeah. So.
Well, thank you, Randall. We didn't get any questions. However, I have my own questions that just to kind of it's really like out of left field, but they're just kind of just quick answer questions.
Sure.
So we'll start with the first one. What is your favorite form of communication to use when you're trying to connect with someone?
Well, I really like being in person with people. I like being at the University of Oklahoma, where we both went. My training actually was in theater, but I wound up working in the nonprofit sector out of college, and my path just kind of went from there. But being in the room with people and being able to communicate with them directly so I can see how people are responding is really ideal. Yeah.
Definitely. When you need to have a difficult conversation, if it's bad news or talking to an irate client, what form of communication do you prefer? Email, phone call, Zoom now, or snail mail?
Well, again, I'm really probably, if I can't be in person with people, email is probably my favorite tool. I know a lot of people that go, I get so many emails, I can't handle it. I would much rather talk to somebody via email and communicate with them than by phone. But on a difficult situation, I still would rather see them face to face. I'd rather talk about it face to face. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Get the real time reaction.
Right. That's right.
Okay, so the next one, how do you move the conversation from someone that talks a lot to another person or to yourself?
Well, interestingly enough, I've had a lot of training in group facilitation, and there's always in training and doing workshops, there's always that situation where somebody else is right, kind of stealing the focus from what you're trying to communicate. And there are all kinds of techniques to use. And my favorite is to go over to them, tap their shoulder, ask them a question, and then ask the same question from someone across the room. So suddenly it just forces them. It lets them know I'm giving them the attention they're seeking, but also deflects the conversation to another side of the room. I like to do that.
Good. How about how do you get out of an awkward situation?
Oh my. Divorce? No. Awkward situations, again, head on. I would rather go toward the problem than run away from the problem. So it's not always easy. Sometimes it takes a moment, but I would rather just deal with it directly on the spot and pivot that way.
I like that. I think that's, I heard you say that a lot in your presentation, to run towards the problem and seek resolution.
Right.
Last one, promise. So what has been your one positive story to come out of our COVID time or safer at home?
Right. Well, I'm kind of a double at risk person for COVID because of age and because I'm a recent cancer survivor. And so I feel like there's this target on me. And still, this last weekend had a wonderful opportunity to meet dear friends on a patio where we could have spacing at a restaurant at Parigi in Oaklawn. Had a wonderful dinner. It reminded me of the connection, that in spite of all the stuff that has us distanced, we can still connect with other people and over food and drinks. And that to me was a wonderful, wonderful moment. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I know it's been difficult. I really appreciate you going through these quick questions with me. It's something that I'm gonna start doing.
Nice.
Just to let everybody know that, I don't know, just to kind of hone it back to, BOMA Dallas connects us, and like why did I have you speak with us, and just to kind of show everyone that connection. So
well, thank you, Christine. I appreciate it.
I really, really appreciate your time today. So
sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's switch gears. Now, for the moment we've all been waiting for, to find out who has the best BOMA chicken. And we did, we had a few categories. We received great pictures from you guys. So thank you guys for sending in your great BOMA chicken pictures. I loved it. This was so much fun to do. So the award for best presentation goes to Jim Peck. Jim, I gotta say that looks like a really healthy sandwich. It's delicious. It looks like you've got mozzarella on there too, I think. You'll have to share me that recipe. For most creative, it was a tie. You guys were so creative on your pictures with this. Shane, with your chicken, I know that's one of your chickens, so love it. And John and Jared, thank you so much for sending in your cute little picture with your chickens that you guys had there. And then best recipe, Christy Early. I think bacon and artichoke chicken salad sounds delicious. So congratulations to you guys. And thank you all for participating in this little contest that we had. And so don't forget our next luncheon is going to be July 21st at our regular spot, Eddie Dean's Ranch. This luncheon is usually our annual Bring Your Team luncheon, but due to social distancing and limited capacity, this year will look a little different. Since you may not be able to bring your entire team this year, we thought it'd be a great opportunity to show off your team. So we're challenging you guys to share what your team has been doing while staying connected during this COVID time. Send us a 30-second video or a picture with an explanation on what your team did to stay connected over these last few months. And I will add, it can also be a positive story, just what came out of this all, just kind of like my last question with Randall. The top stories will be featured during the July luncheon. So I really look forward to seeing those stories, those pictures, videos from you guys. Registration for the luncheon is officially open and space is limited, don't forget. So visit the BOMA Greater Dallas website and get your team registered. So that wraps it up for us, guys. I really appreciate y'all for joining me and Randall. Thank you, Randall. And I'll see you guys in July. Thanks a lot. Bye.